If Senator Jon Ossoff wanted to get under President Trump's skin, it appears he did. After months of attacking the president on the campaign trail, Ossoff's brief mention of Trump's aide Natalie Harp over the weekend has sent the White House comms team into aggressive overdrive, aggressive even for them. Communications Director Stephen Chung dubbed the senator the biggest cuck loser in politics. And White House spokesman Davis Ingalls slammed Ossoff as a cringe-worthy feminine theater kid on X. The White House also attacked the CNN reporter who asked the president about those comments, bringing her kids into it as well. Maggie Haberman is back with us. So, Maggie, is Ossoff getting under his skin?
Clearly. And, you know, I think that there is concern about Natalie Harp getting more attention, which they and the White House do seem concerned about. I think there is some sort of, you know, we have to rally the troops here and we have to circle the wagons around one of our own, in their view. I do want to go back. Ossoff clearly accomplished what he wanted. And if the goal was to focus away from Natalie Harp, President Trump managed to amplify the attention on that by a large margin. The Trump attacking Kristen Holmes from CNN was not surprising. He attacks all of us. The White House, somebody without their name attached to it, it was on an unnamed rapid response account, bringing her children into it was a new level, one that privately some in the White House were pretty uncomfortable with, but it really doesn't matter. It was not exactly brave, and it certainly was crossing a new line that they themselves would then complain about if anybody did something similar with them.
100% I agree with you, and Kristen's been doing some great work, and for years now, and they know her very well.
Correct.
For him to ask her who she is,
it's intended to demean. It's intended to say, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, but that's not true, obviously.
Right.
So let's talk again about Natalie. Why are they circling the wagons around Natalie? Who is Natalie to Donald Trump?
So Natalie Harp has been one of the few people around President Trump since, you know, the 2021-2022 period. She started out on the campaign doing press stuff. It was at a time when almost no one was around him. Most people couldn't even, and Jonathan and I write about this in the book, couldn't stand to be around him because all he would talk about was how he had actually won the election, and most people were moving away. A very tiny group of people. She went from being treated as something of an oddity in his world. She was known as the human printer, a label that her own colleagues gave her, because she would carry this portable printer and print out pieces of good news for him. She then became one of the most valuable things that people outside of the White House can have, which is a channel to get information to him. And she has managed to survive and make herself indispensable to him. She is in almost every meeting.
Hope Hicks was kind of like this to him in 2016. For a time after that, there was his assistant in the White House the first time around that was sort of like this as well.
Not quite like this. This is different. And it's certainly not Hope Hicks. I mean, look, Hope Hicks obviously.
I'm just thinking about her steaming his pants while he was still wearing them.
That was a very specific moment. But in terms of things like carrying a portable printer around, I don't remember it quite.
Is it his security blanket?
Yes, I used the term binky on Sunday, and it's really hard to see it as something otherwise. I mean, he says, and again, we write about this in the book, that, you know, she's the only person in the staff in that world who loves him as much as his wife and kids. He would say to people during the interregnum period, you know, you'll all go off and make money. She'll never leave me.
Where did she come from?
She worked for OAN, the right-wing network.
One American News.
One American News. She spoke at one of the conventions. I think it was 2020. She talked about her own health challenge. She credited him with helping save her. And then she just sort of worked her way up through his circle. We wrote in the book about how she had alarmed people in his world, including the Secret Service, by leaving these deeply personal letters in his personal spaces.
What did they say? Do we know?
You Are All That Matters to Me was one. Another talked about wishing for a day where they wouldn't talk about work. You know, she's clearly taken devotion to him to a very different level. And he is somebody for whom people being loyal to him means a lot.
Okay, back to the midterms. Because the Natalie stuff I think is strange. So I'm going to leave it there. The midterms. We're talking a lot about all of the ways in which Donald Trump might meddle in these midterms. Is there a world where he doesn't do anything?
There is absolutely a world where he doesn't do anything, but I also think that there is not a world where members of his government who have been looking at this for a very long time don't do anything. That would be people like Stephen Miller. That would be a number of people who want to look at who is on the voter rolls, who have, worked on this for some time. Stephen Miller spent some time working with Elon Musk during the interregnum period on, quote unquote, cleaning up voter rolls. So I would be a little surprised if they
didn't do anything.
Here. Yes, but to what end is the question, and we just don't know.
Does Donald Trump like being the underdog? And does this put him back into the underdog position? He has someone to fight against. Right now, it's the press. Yeah. The Democrats don't have any power. After the Democrats took power in the first term, I mean, he had a fight on his hands, and he reveled in it at times. It kept him out of office once, but it got him back into office a second time.
So did a lot of other factors get him back into office a second time, including running against Biden, who was very visibly declining. And that was a huge help to Trump. So was the fact that, he was able to smear all of the criminal cases, civil cases against him with one big brush, which was witch hunt. And he really worked hard for it. I think that there are very different reasons why this might not be the same at this time. It is absolutely true, and you and I both covered him for a long time. He does better with a fight. He likes to fight, and he likes being an under. He doesn't really know how to be the person who has succeeded. That is harder for him.
He's not magnanimous.
I don't think you can necessarily do that this over and over and over again. He is reaching a point where he has told so many different people different things that contradict different segments of his base that I don't know if it will continue that way. But Democrats are his best gift again because they are divided.
You talked about Joe Biden obviously declining. You've written 2 books about Donald Trump now. You've been following him closely and better than anybody for years. Is he declining?
So has Jonathan Swan, doing it fantastically, just to credit my co-author. He looks like 80 and he sounds like 80, and he is speaking slower than he used to, and he has, physical things that are popping up, whether it's rashes on the skin or whether it's the swelling of the ankles, and whether it is, trips to Walter Reed that were taking place with increasing frequency, or whether it's the closing of the eyes in the middle of the meetings at about 4:00 every day. His White House is not transparent on many things, but his health has always been a specific black box. If there's any area where we really didn't get as deeply as we would have liked to, it's that. I can't speak to, what is happening. I'm not a doctor, but he does not look like a young man, and people around him will acknowledge privately. He's showing his age.
He doesn't sound the same either. The book obviously is great. Regime Change. John Swan, obviously amazing as well.
He's the best.
Not here because he's got a new bundle.
He's got things going on in his life, and he is being a very, very responsible human.
Exactly.
He is a great colleague and great human.
And we wish him congratulations.
We wish him the best.
Congratulations. All right, Maggie, always great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say hello to your mother for me.
I will do that. Thank you.